Aloha, everyone. This is another Freedom to Feel conversation, and my guest today is Dr. Emilio M. Justo. He is an innovator, two-time international Tedx speaker, the author of The Power of Pause, Mastering Delayed Gratification for Success, a blueprint for resilience and enduring fulfillment. Emilio is also a renowned the pronunciation of this name. I'll try it. Blepharoplasty.
Blepharoplasty.
Thank you. Expert and medical director. So I didn't know about this word until I met you. So the full bio will be at the end, also the podcast notes. There's a lot more about Emilio, so please read on the notes below. The question that I love asking all my guests from before we get into dive into all these questions about your amazing work. I love the idea of delayed gratification. It's something that I've been very much interested in, not just from a personal business perspective, but also spiritual. So, but my first question to you is, how would you introduce yourself, Emilio? Who are you in your own words?
Wow, what a fascinating question, Valeria. That's wonderful. Well, I think I'm a balance between being introverted with a little bit of extroverted side, and
Yeah.
I'm a very, very at least I think, if you ask my wife, she might tell you a little differently, but I think I'm a deep spiritual thinker. I'm a very loyal person,
Mm,
and I'm a very driven person.
mm.
So, once I put my mind to something, it's hard for me to let go. And again, my wife understands this. Um, so, there's so many sides to me. One thing I can say, and I say this openly to everyone, is that, as I think we all are, is that although I try for excellence in anything that I step forward to do,
Right.
but I'm one of God's creatures and I'm a flawed human being. And so I never believe that I'm perfect. I never believe that I'm better than anyone else. I think God put us all here on this earth for a reason and a purpose.
Yeah.
And my purpose, primarily throughout my life, has been to serve my patients, being a medical doctor and an eye surgeon. And I've been blessed to restore the vision of
Mm.
literally thousands of patients. I mean, I've
Wow.
performed approximately 50,000 surgeries in my 37-year career. I'm still practicing full time.
Wow.
So that's been one of my main purposes, I feel. And I'm also a husband. I'm a father of three children. And so, so there are many, many sides to me.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
first and foremost, I'm just a human being like you and all of our listeners and viewers.
That's beautiful. It has been said that humility is very connected to wisdom, right? So, yeah, that that can be heard when you say that. I can hear the voice of wisdom, being humble. You have a lot of talents, a lot of gifts, and I wonder how did they come to be? Like, is that something that you were trained since you were a child? Were you influenced by your parents, by somebody? Did you have a mentor? I would love to hear the backstory of your success.
Yes. Well, first, the backstory is that, as I believe you know,
Mm,
that I came, I was born in Cuba,
yeah.
and I came to the United States with my parents as an only child at the age of 3.5. And so I was
Wow.
very young, and we were escaping communism. And
Yeah.
so just observing my parents, who, my gosh, I mean,
Mm,
I almost feel like crying because my
yeah.
parents have been my backbone throughout my
Mm,
early
mm,
years and my early adult years prior to being
yeah.
married.
Yeah.
And, I see them in this country not knowing the language,
Mm,
my father losing his business. He had a shoe store outside of Havana. My mother, who was very well educated, she had her PhD in education from the University of Havana. So we
Wow.
come to this country with nothing. I mean, literally nothing. And we were sponsored by a church organization back in the 1960s. That's how Cuban refugees entered into the United States legally, is
Right.
church organizations were able to sponsor their entry. And
Mm.
so we settled in a town close to Chicago called Gary, Indiana. And my father was working two full-time jobs. He was working blue collar work in the steel mill, and then he had another full-time job with the church, being their maintenance and janitor and doing everything for the church. And
Right.
my mother moved 3 hours south to Indiana University to restudy all over again, because when you come
Oh,
from a
yeah.
communist country, your credentials don't transfer.
Right.
So my grandparents came over a little later, and the
Mm.
church that sponsored them was in a different state in Missouri, in a
Mm.
small little town. And
Yeah.
so my parents actually made the courageous decision to send me away to grow up with my grandparents. So for 5 years,
Mm.
from kindergarten through the end of fourth grade, I grew up with my grandparents in a little tiny college town in Missouri called Tarkio College, about
Right.
2,000 people. And I was surrounded by college kids, and here I
Yeah.
am growing up. We actually lived in a dormitory, believe it or not. My
Mm.
grandfather worked for the college, and
Yeah.
my grandmother just stayed at home. I mean, she didn't speak any English at all.
Yeah.
And so surrounded by so much love with my
Mm.
grandparents and then my parents,
Yeah.
but also observing their sacrifice and their positive attitude. I mean, my parents never, I mean, they were so appreciative of being in the United States and having an opportunity to make
Yeah.
something of their lives. And
Right.
even having it as difficult as they had it,
Yeah.
they were just so appreciative. That's why,
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I don't have, because that's my frame of reference. I don't have a lot of tolerance for
Mm.
people in today's society
Mm.
who don't take advantage of all the great opportunities that we have in this wonderful country of the
That's true.
United States, right? I mean, we have all the opportunities ahead of us,
Yeah.
and no matter what background we come from,
Yeah.
if we work hard and if we're
Mm.
disciplined, we
Mm.
can make something of ourselves, because my
Right.
parents and I are living proof of that.
Right.
So going back, I'm sorry to ramble, but going back to your original question,
Yeah.
really my rock, my foundation, are really my parents and my grandparents as well. But
Yeah.
I valued them immensely. I
Yeah.
thought they were wise. I mean, as a kid, yeah, you sometimes,
Uh-huh.
ha sometimes maybe felt that they didn't know things, but
Right.
not that much. I mean, not that much, really. I valued their opinion. I took their opinion to heart, and I lost my father many years ago. He passed away uh, 30 years ago in 1995.
Yeah.
My mother, unfortunately, who was a high school teacher in the United States after she got her credentials, very, very sharp lady. And in the last 10 years, she's developed a really bad dementia. So I
Mm.
can't talk much to her. So,
Yeah.
so it's sad at this point. I mean, I just have my own family and my wife, who I adore. And now she's my rock and my support,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
puts up with all of my eccentricities.
That is so wonderful. What's not to love about all of that, Emilio? Thank you for sharing. Um, Not just your appreciation for the United States and everything that we, I mean, the opportunities we have, wow, to be all that we can be, really. It is incredible. And I feel the same way, yeah, coming from Brazil. So I have a question for you. Not getting too political, not getting political, maybe, I don't know. But I wanted to ask you this question. So how do you see This the unfolding or the experience that we have collectively in some cultures, some countries, with some people, just a few people making decisions that impact, entire, I mean, thousands, millions of people in a very destructive way, a lot of times, and unhealthy ways, like Cuban being, a communist country. And then Brazil too, we have a lot of political issues there because of politicians. So how do you feel about that? And can we do something about it? What is your vision for that?
Wow, that's a complex question. Um, I don't know if you're thinking of specific topics because it's a kind of a broad question.
Yeah.
In politics and in countries, and I'm no politician, nor do I ever want to become. That's
Yes.
never been one of my goals because in politics you can never please everyone. You're always going to have people who love you and people who hate you. That's just the
Right.
nature of the beast.
Right.
I do feel in general, and I'm speaking in generalities, that
Yeah.
I think I'm a believer that the more the government can stay out of people's lives, I
Mm.
think the better. I think that as
Yeah.
human beings, if we're disciplined and
Mm.
have that resilience and that perseverance, that's how economies grow. That's how people become successful. That's how people become creative. If you take a communist dictatorship like Cuba, for example, where
Yeah.
everyone is suppressed and you have an iron fist from the top down, I
Yeah.
mean, what creativity is there
Mm.
in Cuba relative to the United States? I mean, very little because you can't do much on your own.
Right.
So I
Right.
think the more the government stays out of our pockets,
Mm. Mm.
uh, the better that we are. Um,
Yeah.
I will
Right.
say, since you kind of asked a political type
Mm.
question, and with so much going on in the United States, and I know that
Yeah.
people are going to disagree with me, and that's okay as long as we're respectful. That's okay. I'm
Mm.
I'm open to contrary opinions, but I do think that it is important as a country that any country in the world that really is successful uh, has laws regarding immigration, and,
Mm.
and I think it's important to have immigration. I'm an immigrant,
Right.
right? But our family came over legally,
Yeah.
and so each country has their own set of laws as to how immigrants can come into the country. And I think it's important to follow those laws, to just have completely open borders where
Mm.
anyone can just walk in without being looked at and vetted and to see what their background is. Because
Yeah.
for a country to exist, people who are coming in need to be able to assimilate with that country. They need to be able to at least attempt to learn the language.
Right.
Uh, and so my parents and grandparents tried very hard. Some were more successful. My mother spoke much better English than my father. My grandfather spoke much better English than my grandmother,
Right.
but they tried.
Yeah.
And once they got to the United States and we all became naturalized citizens of this country, they were the biggest supporters, as I am, of the United States.
Mm.
They would never think of trash talking the United States and saying, what an evil country it is.
Right.
I think it's important when we allow immigrants in that we make sure that these are people who are going to add to
Mm.
our society, add productively to our society, and
Yes.
really be in favor of the United States. I mean, really, it would not make any sense to be bringing people in who are trying to tear down
Hmm.
what the United States stands for. And so that's I think maybe a little controversial,
Yeah.
but I feel wholeheartedly that that's how it should be.
Yes, yeah. Thank you for expressing your opinion about this subject specifically. But I will bring it back to your work and my work, which is all about empowering individuals to be more resilient, to be more courageous, to come from a place of love, a place of peace. So that's really my job, and that's your job too. Your beautiful kind of suggestion, right? Your gift to individuals. And going back to the immigration issue that I have heard. I don't watch TV or listen to the radio. I don't know much about these things, but by choice, because I try to keep it more focused on what I do. But there are a lot of illegal, right, immigrants that come here, like even the gangsters and all those people that, all about destruction. They actually sneak in, smuggle themselves. So that's the main, seems like that's the main challenge. But I also see, yeah, those who are not willing to do the work of contribution, of contributing to something in society. And I never understood that since I got here. I remember I have been working so hard. Well, I love doing what I do. I think that's another thing. It's important to know oneself, right, Emilio? I think that's what it is. Like your work, it really kind of inspires that we can become something that we kind of imagine ourselves to be, that we really, kind of move forward with that confidence that we can achieve, our own greatness for ourselves without trying to prove anything to others. So, with that in mind, talk to me about your book. What inspired you to become an author and to do this work of passing down wisdom, basically, beautiful wisdom?
Well, the honest 100% transparent answer is that as I've gotten a little bit older in my life, I mean, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, oh, we can't be a day over 40, but that's just a joke. But as as my life has advanced, I've wanted to take a step back and to ponder my life and
Mm,
what other things I can do besides what I've been doing for 37 years, which I still love and
right.
practice full time, as I said earlier, in ophthalmology and surgery.
Yeah.
But so I started just searching the internet, and I found things on TEDx talks, which I don't know how familiar you or your audience are,
Yes.
but I got involved in this and I went through the long, arduous process. Let me tell you, it's a very
Yeah.
challenging process to
Yeah.
get a TEDx talk and get invited to speak at one.
It's true.
But I did the first one, and the subject was on delayed gratification, your superpower to success.
Mm.
And now, originally, what I wanted to talk about is I wanted to talk about three different things. As I reflected back on my life, I thought, gosh, what has made me or made my life quote unquote successful, and you can define that in different
Mm.
ways,
Yeah.
is what I consider number one, self discipline, number two, perseverance and resilience,
Mm.
and then number three, delayed gratification. So originally, I wanted to talk about that triad. But then one of my mentors in the TEDx world said, it's way too much. You only have 10 to 12 minutes. You really should just narrow it down to one subject.
Mm.
So I decided to talk about delayed gratification simply because by default, that's been my life. I mean, I didn't consciously think about it.
Mm.
As an immigrant, you don't have that immediate gratification because we have no money, we don't have fancy things.
Right.
So it was all a matter of delaying and delaying. And even as I was an adult and I went through medical school and then residency and then started private practice, I kept reinvesting in my practice.
Mm.
So I wasn't living this high, lifestyle.
Right.
So I did that. I delivered that talk, that TEDx talk, and it did very, very well. I mean, it got millions of views.
Yeah.
And so my wife was the one who, she was as shocked as I was.
Huh.
And she said to me, hey, maybe you should consider writing a book on that topic. And I
Mm.
looked at her and I thought she was crazy. And I'm like, writing a book? I have no idea how to write a book. I've never written a book. I don't even know where to start.
Mm.
But I took her suggestion to heart and I worked very diligently, and most of my time when I'm doing work like this, whether it's preparing for talks or speeches or books, is I do it on the weekends because my Monday through Friday is very, very busy because I
Yeah.
work long hours. And
Right.
so, I mean, I devoted, several months, just the
Mhm.
entire weekend, just little by little writing this book, and it's done well, and it's I used a lot of my own personal examples, both from my own upbringing as well as examples from our family now and our kids, because even though I preach delayed gratification to our children,
Yes.
who are now a little bit older, they're let's see, they're 14, 18, and 21,
Yeah.
and they claim that they understand, right? They claim that they understand delayed gratification, but yet
Yeah.
when I watch them, when I watch their actions, etc.,
Really?
they're kids like any other kid. They don't really understand that delayed gratification. So to
Mm.
me, it's at the core of who I am,
Right.
and it's really only been in the last 10 years or so that I've let myself get away a little bit. I mean, I still have that delayed gratification, but
Yeah.
I've let myself splurge after all these years, after a lifetime.
Mm.
And really, it was my wife. Again, I give her credit.
Mm.
My wife's name is Allison. She's the one who actually kind of gave me the blessing, quote unquote, to
Mm.
go ahead and have some immediate gratification. Uh,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
so I've been able to do that a little bit in the last 10 years. But delayed gratification, self discipline, perseverance are at the core of who I am. And then ultimately, as I was coming out with the book, I was so enamored with the TEDx talks that I delivered a second TEDx talk in Canada outside of Toronto, and it was on the positive power of obsession. So the
Mm. Yeah.
title was Unleashing the Drive Within,
Right.
the Obsession Advantage to Unprecedented Success. And
Right.
basically, in that talk, I gave a paradigm shift on obsession not being a negative. Normally when we hear
Mm.
the word obsession, we think of
Yeah.
like a psychological disorder, an obsessive
True.
compulsive disorder.
Yeah.
But no, I wanted to change the paradigm because I firmly believe that in anything in life that we want to achieve, whatever our goals are, whatever our dreams are, that to be successful, to be truly successful, and I don't mean successful financially, I just mean successful in the generic term, that to be successful, we have to be obsessed with our dreams and our goals, and we have to be thinking about it all the time, working
Mm.
on it. And that's
Mm.
how we achieve great things in this world for all of us, right? If you look at any, let's say,
Yeah.
entrepreneur that
Yeah.
started some incredible company, when they were first starting out and they had nothing, they were obsessed. They lived and breathed every moment of what they were trying to achieve. And
Right.
so I think obsession is a very powerful, positive thing.
It is. And I feel the same way. So I want to thank you, Allison, for the inspiration. That's a beautiful thing. I love that about women. Yeah, when they are open to help their husbands or the men around them, their kids, to do a little bit more in the creative side, bring the feminine side too. That's creative power. So yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you, Allison. Say that again. So I have a question for you. I think the first question is success. How do you define success like today? What is it to be successful to you?
Well, I think success is simply being able to first set a specific goal in your life, whatever that goal is, whether it's a
Mm,
career goal, whether it's a family goal, a personal goal, a financial goal,
right.
and then be obsessed about it.
Yeah.
uh, Chart your course, so to speak, meaning as you have that goal, you have to set up almost like a specific action plan, and
Mm,
periodically you chart your progress by verifying, okay, are you getting ahead in certain things? Is this working? Is it not working? And I think it's quite fine to be flexible. You don't have to be
Right.
inflexible. You change based upon the feedback that you're getting. And part of that feedback is going to be that as you're trying to achieve whatever this goal is,
Yeah.
that you need to be able to embrace failure, right? Because there's
Mhm.
very few of us who
True.
can honestly look in the mirror and say that they've achieved anything great without having
Mm,
failures along the way. I mean,
mm.
I've had numerous failures in my life,
Me too.
including my adult career life. I've made stupid mistakes,
Yeah.
but you learn. That's how you learn. And
Right.
if you don't have those failures, you don't really learn. And so you have to be able to embrace them and not shy away from them. So going back to your question, so success is having that goal, working diligently and persevering and having that resilience that when you get knocked down, that you get back up, right?
Mm.
Uh, I think it was Confucius that said, something to the effect that uh, it's not the act of never failing or never falling down what's important, but what's important is being able to get back up.
Right.
And so that's very important. And I know it's difficult at the time. I mean, let's face it, we've all had very down periods in our life where something went terribly wrong, and then
Right.
you're kind of in this hole, and psychologically it's hard sometimes to get out of it.
Right.
But it's just so important to, pull yourself up
Yeah.
and keep pushing forward. And if one does that repeatedly, I truly feel that we can become successful, quote unquote, at anything that we want to do. I think the sky is the limit. and
Mm.
and, and so again, we're so blessed to be in a country that we have freedom, right? Freedom is key.
Yeah.
In countries like communist, socialist countries where there's not freedom, it's very difficult to, have that level of success. You might
True.
have success in terms of general happiness. Like I
Mm.
visited Cuba about 20 years ago,
Wow.
and it was amazing. I mean, I loved my experience, and the Cuban
Mm.
people were so wonderful and so happy.
Yeah.
So they're able to be resilient and to show happiness. And in one sense, I do think that they have some level of inner happiness, but at the same time, they're very aware of the fact that they don't have the freedoms that the rest of the world does. They're not naive to that.
Right.
They're quite aware, but
Right.
yet they still are able to make what they can.
Mm.
Given the external circumstances, they're able to make what they can internally to have that love and happiness. Of music, for example, right? Being
Mm.
Brazilian,
Yeah.
music
All
is
right.
very important.
Yes.
That to me is success. Just being able to
Mm.
continue to strive for your goal, be resilient, persevere, and you can achieve anything. I truly believe that.
Yes. Thank you, Emilio. Again, I hear the voice of wisdom. Yeah, you have a lot of that to share in a very present way, like true way. It's very easy to hear that you're coming from your own experience. That is something that's real. It's very tangible. It's not, you're not just, you didn't read in the book and you're just not kind of repeating words. It's coming from your entire being. So thank you for that. That means that does something. It's almost like a transmission of that wisdom is being passed on, besides just words. So thank you. The question that comes to mind, about delayed gratification is, well, something that I have two questions about resilience and also about delayed gratification. Delayed gratification. Um, what about the idea of being happy later? Like, oh, I wait, like you probably have heard of people that they do jobs that they really don't like so they can make money, they can buy a house by the beach or somewhere, and then they retire and then they live, happy ever after. And then sometimes that never happens. They get sick, and sometimes some people die before that happens. So how do you see that? I have my own experience kind of to come from. For me is, as long as it is joyful, then I'm good. I'm in. If it is joyful, like it's not work anymore, I just love doing this. So it doesn't really matter how many hours I put into it, how much of my energy I give to it. It doesn't really matter, because it's almost like a choice, less choice. I just love doing this for the sake of doing it. It's just, I know it's something that fulfills my soul, my spirit. So that's me, but not everyone comes from the same place, as you know. So talk to me in general about this, the balance between delayed gratification and now waiting to be happy.
It's a great question. To me, there's a subtle distinction, because when I talk about delayed gratification, I'm certainly not talking about delayed joy or delayed
Yeah,
happiness,
yeah,
or delayed blessings in our lives. No, no.
right.
I'm just talking about things well, let me take a step back.
Yeah.
Nowadays, as you may or may not know, I know that you mentioned that you're not so much on
No,
TV and social
yeah,
media and things like that, and neither am I. But
yeah,
the very few times that I have gotten on social media,
yeah,
to me, it's just so artificial, and it gives so much immediate
Mhm.
gratification,
Right,
and that the youth of our country, I think, fall into this trap where they think that everything comes easily,
right.
and that they don't have to
Mm,
work for it.
yeah,
So when I talk about delayed gratification, I'm talking about the fact that I personally believe that we must really work and be disciplined about what we want to achieve in our lives, in our career, in our family, and financially. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't be happy or
yeah,
that we can't enjoy the process.
right.
I think the
Right.
journey is
Yeah.
actually far more
Mm,
important than the
mm,
destination, right?
beautiful.
Because
Yeah.
let's face it,
Yeah. Yeah.
we can have this goal of this destination.
Yeah.
In my mind, again, this is me speaking, in my mind,
Mm,
I, for my own life, I don't think I will ever reach that destination. Why? Because
mm,
that destination changes a little bit,
right.
which is good, I think.
Right.
Because as I live my life, my mind changes, and I want to
Mm,
do this. Just like doing the
right.
TEDx talks. I mean, 10 years ago, would I have dreamed of doing a TEDx talk? Would I have dreamed of writing a book? It was the furthest thing from my mind. But
Right.
so your mind changes, your attitude changes, your way of thinking changes, and so
Yeah.
I think that the delayed gratification is really more in terms of resisting these superficial, immediate pleasures,
Mm,
and
yeah.
instead waiting and being able to wait for that longer term reward
Yeah.
later, which generally speaking is going to be far, far greater.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that you need to delay happiness or delay your life. I mean, you
Mm,
can still live a very happy life. And regardless of what we're doing, you were using, I believe, the example of, working very, very hard, and then, at a
yeah.
job maybe that you don't like. Well, uh,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a balance. I mean, sometimes you do have to work at something that maybe you're not loving on a short term basis, but
Yes.
I'm not telling someone that they need to sacrifice 20 years of their life doing something that they don't like simply
Right.
to be able to get to an endpoint. No, no, I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm just
Right.
suggesting that be present in the moment,
Mm,
work very, very hard,
yeah.
enjoy what you're doing, just like you enjoy what you're
Mm,
doing, right?
yes.
You've already said that several times.
Oh, yeah.
So as long as you enjoy what you're doing, are working diligently, have discipline, you must be disciplined in life. I mean,
Yes.
I see so many people who just are all over the place, and they don't have self discipline. You
Yeah.
have to be able to discipline yourself and
True.
set priorities, and then it just comes about naturally. And
Yeah.
you don't even have to focus on it. It'll just, those parts of gratification will just drop into your life when you least expect it. right? And so that's, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's the way I view things.
Yes, you very much answered my question. I love your clarity too. So it's not about delaying happiness or joy. It's I love the way you're very precise with the words. You said superficial pleasures. So that makes a lot of sense to me. Yes, superficial pleasures. That's one of the things that for women is a little bit more complicated than men, I guess, because we we can do so much more with the hair, with the makeup, with the shoes, and all these things, and it's not as easy to be disciplined when it comes to that. Oh, maybe I shouldn't get another hairband. Maybe I shouldn't do something else. It's harder for us. Also because we have this almost like this expectation from society and from men too, that they want us to be always work really hard, be very disciplined, but also look pretty and smile. So sometimes it gets to be too much. I don't know if you have probably noticed that around the women in your life, but that's something that, yeah, that we women kind of, it's not a, is a challenge per se. With the superficiality, which I'm very aware of it, and I'm very disciplined with that too, with my food, because I'm very healthy anyway oriented. And then my clothes, I try to be as simple as possible with everything as a woman, but it's not, yeah, easier said than done in a lot of areas. So.
Right. No, I understand. I understand.
You do, Emilio. Good. Thank you. Yeah, I love that. That you can kind of dress those audience, right? The men, when it comes to delayed gratification, and women, it's a bit different. It really is. So another question for you is about resilience. What makes somebody resilient? What is about? Have you noticed certain qualities? Why do some people, sometimes even from the same family, they grow up, they're educated by the same parents, same school, everything, but they are different. Brothers and sisters. One is resilient and the other one is not. And I wonder why that happens. Do you have some ideas or some you have to share?
Wow. Yeah, another great question. I mean, you have wonderful questions. You put a lot of thought into this, which is wonderful. Um, I, I think resilience is a double-edged sword. I mean, some of it may be in our own DNA, certainly, right? I mean, I think
Yeah.
DNA
Right.
determines a lot of our personal characteristics, no doubt.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
putting that aside, I do tend to believe that all of these traits, whether it be self discipline, whether it be the resilience, whether it be the delayed gratification, I honestly do feel that they can be learned. And they can
Mm,
be learned by,
mm,
number one, bringing it to a more conscious level. And
right.
number two, trying to consciously practice it in your life in just small manners, right? On a
Yeah.
daily basis. Uh, rarely does a day go by that we don't have some minor thing,
Mm,
at least, that is negative, or that you don't
true.
like. And
Mm,
so if you can frame that and say, okay, well, I didn't like that, or I didn't like what that this happened, but then reframe it in your mind and
mm,
then jump past it and get beyond it, those little incremental steps
right.
will act as a muscle, like you're training your muscle, right?
Right.
Whether you're going to the gym and flexing your muscle. And by those little incremental steps on a conscious level, I do feel that over time, it becomes much, much easier so
Yeah.
that when you have the bigger challenges, it's not so difficult to practice that resilience because you've already subconsciously trained yourself to be resilient. So,
Right.
so yes, do some people maybe have a slight advantage because maybe it's somehow pre-wired in their DNA,
Yeah.
even within one family, like you were saying, might have several children and one child may be more resilient than another.
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. But at the same time, in my mind, I don't allow that as being an excuse for the
Mm,
child who doesn't quote unquote have resilience. I
yeah.
think that if they practice it on a conscious level in little increments, little step by step increments, you slowly build that muscle.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, it's not really as much of an effort. Just like when you're first lifting whatever 20 pounds and
Hmm.
it feels heavy, then a year from now you're lifting 20 pounds and it feels like it's 5 pounds,
Yeah.
because you've increased that muscle.
Yeah.
Um, so that's kind of my thought on that. I think there's contributing factors.
Yes. Thank you, Emilio, again for your clarity. Yes, I resonate with the DNA. Yes, some of us are born this way. Yes, for some reason, and some of us, like myself, and I would say, just getting to know your story and you a little bit has also to do with experience, right? What have you heard about that? That sometimes the only choice you have is to be strong, right? You have no other choice. So it has been my case in many, many, many situations since I was very little in Brazil. It's basically I become stronger and resilient, or I die, or I suffer even more, or I really, it basically was that. I only had those two choices. I really, basically at some point was die. You would die if you don't become stronger. So I think that might be the reason why a lot of people don't become stronger, don't become resilient, because they don't have that life experience of going through deep, seated suffering and pain, which
Yeah,
isn't that funny? Yeah,
I fully agree with you because, one observation, which is not unique, I'm sure you've seen this as well,
yeah,
is that those individuals, let's use the immigrant community,
yes,
not me, for example, but just in general. You look at immigrants who come to the United States, uh, generally speaking, they have such a strong work ethic because they
yeah,
come here, they fled circumstances that are not good in their home country. They
yeah,
come here, they look at the opportunity. I mean, they see the United States truly as a land of opportunity. That's
yeah,
not just jargon, but it
right,
really hits home in their heart. And
true.
they use that opportunity to make something incredible.
Mm,
So if you look at the immigrant population over the course of decades, they've become just super successful. I mean, now I'll personalize it more with the Cuban immigrant population. You look at the Cuban immigrant population, for example, in Miami and other parts of
mhm,
the United States. I mean,
yeah,
some of the most successful people
yes,
are Cuban, right?
yes,
Right, and because of their immigrant mentality. However, so often is the case that you have Americans who are born here
yeah,
and maybe they're growing up somewhat in what I call an entitled mentality, where
yes,
they're given everything and
yes,
they don't really have the deep burning motivation to succeed
mm,
because they've been given everything,
that's
and so
true.
that's problematic,
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that, as a parent, I struggle with a little bit
mm, yeah,
because I came over as an immigrant, and my parents never had to push me to do anything. I mean,
yeah,
that part of it, I guess, was a combination of
yeah,
being in my DNA and
yeah,
maybe observing them
mm,
work so hard and never complain, right?
yeah,
So I was very disciplined. I was very motivated. No one had to push me,
yeah,
and I've worked very hard my whole life, and now I'm living, and I say this very humbly, but
yeah,
I mean, I'm living a life that is extraordinarily blessed,
mm,
that many people would love to have,
yes,
and yet raising children in this sort of life is very difficult because
yeah,
our children don't have quite as much hunger
mm,
because
yeah,
they've grown up with all the nice things around them.
that's true.
So, so your experience, like you were saying, the experience shapes you and molds you into who you are and what your personality traits may be.
Right.
It's a never ending challenge.
It is, Emilio. It is, and that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that too, because that's a really interesting. Perhaps you could write a book about that. That would be an interesting one, about how. to grow up with everything, but still have this sense of inner power, of inner resilience, within ourselves. How can you teach that to children who are born with everything, who has everything? How can they still be strong and ready for life? Because life will always challenge us, right? No matter what. It doesn't matter how much money we have, how pretty we are, good looking we are. You know that, right, Amelia? Life, especially time, will challenge everything about us, our belief systems, everything. So that would be an amazing thing. Let me know if you write that book about how you taught your children to become resilient in the midst of
Yeah, I'm
success.
still trying. Quite honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out myself. Because
Yeah.
as a parent, again, remember I said at the very beginning that as a human being, I'm very flawed, and I must also
Oh,
admit that as a parent, I've been flawed, and certain
mm,
things. If I had to start over as a parent, I
mm,
perhaps may do a little differently. So
yeah,
it's just a challenge, But we do the best that we can, and I'm
yeah.
a believer that
Mm,
I don't really look back. I mean, I look back only
mm,
to learn from the
mm,
mistakes that I've made. In that sense, I
yeah.
look back, but I don't dwell on the past. What's
Mm,
behind me and mistakes that I've made, that's
yeah.
behind me. I, I,
Yeah.
I live only in the moment and then projecting ahead for my goals in the future. So I'm more of an in the moment sort of person. I
Yeah.
definitely do not dwell in the past. That just serves no positive purpose in my mind.
Wow. But so I see you as this wise, wonderful father, human being, not just father, but human being, as a model, as a role model. You just kind of really, I mean, that's what we need, really. Somebody who, I mean, stay in the moment, so being present, not dwelling in the past, not having regrets. That's something that's highly, highly spiritual. That we do. I've done so much of the spiritual work to get to this simple understanding that this moment is what matters the most. So you seem to have that already in you, and the delayed gratification, the resilience. I mean, what else could you offer children? I don't know. Yeah, I think it feels to me like you have done it all. You have done everything. If they don't perceive it that way, then it's
Yeah,
something
I don't know. I mean, I very, very, very much appreciate your kind words, and I mean, it really touches my heart to hear you say these beautiful things. But sometimes, honestly, I feel like I've in certain ways I haven't been as good of a role model, or I've almost failed my
oh,
children in certain ways. I don't know why I feel that way. Simply,
yeah,
um, I don't know. Simply, just my perception of
yeah,
things. So
yeah. Hmm.
it's very difficult. I mean, I don't know if you're a parent or not, but parenthood is far more challenging
Yeah.
than I ever thought it would be, to be quite honest. I mean, it's really
Right.
humbled me tremendously.
Uh,
And even though I try to be a role model for our children, I think that sometimes they perceive it a little differently. Like a simple
mm,
example is,
mm,
as I said earlier, I mean, I work very hard and I
yeah.
enjoy my work, but I get home and I'm exhausted. When you're doing surgery all day
Oh,
or,
yeah.
or seeing patients in clinic all day, I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's just physically and mentally exhausting.
Right.
Um, but sometimes they perceive that as me working too hard and not enjoying my
Mm,
life.
mm,
They view it almost as a negative. And
mm,
yet I try to say to them, look, I mean, this is who
mm,
I am. This is not a negative.
right.
I mean, I don't have to do this. I mean, I could just
Mm,
retire tomorrow, but I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. I mean,
right.
I enjoy it's this hunger that I have
Mm,
for doing what I do, and I love the things that I can do for my patients, and in
Oh,
terms of vision, in terms of aesthetic improvement to their face and their eyelids, the blepharoplasty that you mentioned
yes,
before.
yeah.
So, but from a child's perspective, even a young adult child, sometimes they view that differently. And I think that they see how hard I've worked, and they tell me, I don't want to live that kind of life.
Oh,
And
I
okay, I
see.
mean, I respect that. I respect that, um, but I don't have any regrets for working that hard. And ultimately, I tell them it's the working that hard that has been able to
Mm,
allow me and to allow my wife to provide the wonderful things that we've provided to you,
yeah,
which you take for granted.
right.
Which of course, and you have no reason but to take it for granted because you don't know any better. That's your life. But for the typical average child in the United States and even in other countries, right, that aren't
Yeah,
as affluent as the United States. I
yeah.
mean, you guys are living a charmed life,
Mm,
better than 99% of the world,
wow.
and yet you don't see that. And
Right.
of course, they don't see it because that's their life. When I was growing up, and I was, our family was quite poor. I didn't see it as being poor. That was just my life. That's just what it
Mm,
was. I didn't see it, when you're in the moment,
yeah,
you can't really see around you. You
right.
just see the moment and you think that your
Mm,
experience is the normal experience.
mm. Wow, Amelia, thank you for sharing that too. This is really wonderful, not just for me, but for the audience too. In my opinion, my humble opinion, I think you are an amazing human being. And I think I'm not a mother, I'm not a parent, but I also see clearly that we cannot control everything. So it seems like what gets to you a lot of times that you're trying to control their feelings, their perspective,
Yes.
their perception of life, and that can only come from experience. So we can't really force children, anyone, to really learn their lessons, ahead of time. It has that
Yes.
right moment. Yeah,
And I keep learning that over and over because, my wife, who is very wise, and I listen to her very intently,
yeah.
and she's very supportive of me,
Mm.
but she also,
Oh,
can be very, very, honest and critical of me, which
yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
And that's one of the things that she has told me repeatedly is that, hey, you can't control
Mm.
all these various things. You can't control their perceptions and their feelings.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And so and the other thing she tells me, which I'll be the first to admit, is that she says that I try to educate too much because
Um,
I
yeah.
preach to them
Yeah.
what I feel is important that I've learned over my lifetime.
Right.
And so
Right.
I feel so passionate about it
Mm,
that I preach it to our children.
yeah.
But honestly, they most of the time they just don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
They're just in denial or don't want to hear it. And so my wife calls me the educator. So
Ah,
so
yeah.
uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
it's a challenge. I mean, I'm blessed to have three wonderful children, and I love them dearly. But it's certainly a challenge to be a
Mm.
parent and a father.
Yeah, everybody says that. So I don't have the experience, but I can only imagine. Um, One of the things that I see too that could help, which is a challenge for a lot of people, is being sovereign in a sense that that, like you said beautifully, I do what I do because I enjoy it. This is what I want to do. I want to work every day. I want to do what I'm doing. So you don't have to explain that to anybody. The truth is, for me, has been, you don't have to explain that to anyone, not even your wife or your kids. That's you. That's your life. It's almost like something that God gave to you, this life, this gift. So, I mean, it's the most beautiful thing when we can embrace that and say, this is me. This is what I do. And you just let go of the rest. And that I mean, everything changes. It has been my experience too.
No, and I agree with you. And under normal circumstances, I wouldn't be explaining this to someone else, to my neighbor or
Right,
someone like
right,
that.
right.
But when it's your children and they've verbalized, and they don't typically verbalize it directly to me. They
Yeah.
verbalize it to their mother, to my wife, and
Yes.
then
Yeah.
she tells me,
Right.
and it saddens me.
Oh.
It
Yeah.
saddens me because
Yeah.
I see myself deep down inside. I mean, maybe
Mm.
they don't see it because I'm not one of these people that's just jumping around, and
Right.
joking all the time. I do have a light side, but I'm a very serious person,
Right.
and I'm a very driven person, as I said at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So when I am living a life that I feel I've been blessed, I have lived a charmed life. If I were to die after this
Mm.
podcast with you,
Mhm.
my life has been worth living.
Ah,
But
beautiful.
um,
Yeah.
but when I see this, and then I see that apparently the children think I work too hard and that I don't enjoy my life and things like that, and I think to
Mm.
myself, wow, I mean that's just amazing to me, because I work hard, but having children now, I also play hard, and
Mm.
and I've been able,
Yeah.
again, due to so many blessings with our children, we've been able to travel all over the
Mm.
world,
Wow.
including your mother
Brazil?
country,
Oh,
including
yeah.
Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah.
Uh,
Beautiful.
so we've been all over the world,
Mm.
which not too many people can say that. And so I've tried to expose them to
Yeah.
many different cultures and languages and human beings, and they do appreciate that. But
Yeah.
it's the hard work that I've put in
Mm.
that has
Yeah.
allowed that, right?
Yes.
My
Yeah.
parents were not able to provide that for me because they didn't have that as
Mm.
immigrants with nothing.
Mm.
So it's a double-edged sword.
Mm. Oh my God, Emilio. Yeah, I'm sorry about that because I mean, I feel for you, like with my empathetic heart, because I see clearly how much wisdom you carry, how much of the resilient of this inner power, knowing oneself and knowing all your work. What is it serving? You know um, not just the benefits, but the greatness of it. So you recognize your own greatness. This is to me is everything. Now, I do understand that's a challenge when more than one people, especially our children, like your children, see, because sometimes, like, the closer they are to you, the more they will affect you emotionally too, and kind of challenge your own understanding of self. Like you have all this, I see you a very confident man in yourself, in your inner self too, not just the outside world with all the things you accomplished, but your inner self. There's a lot of wisdom there, a lot of power, inner power. So that's sad to see people like you being challenged by your own children, maybe because number three or four. That happens a lot with the collective, where we, individuals might just give in and say, you're right, I'll quit, just to please you and to be close to you, and so you can love me, so you can accept me. I'll just give up what I believe is true, to me. That happens a lot, so And then, but thank you for not doing that, for not giving up on your own greatness, and keep doing the work
Yeah,
you do.
no, yeah, no, I'm definitely driven, and I love all the things that I do. I mean, if there's something I don't enjoy, I simply don't do it. Like, for
Right.
example, do I have to be sitting here right now doing this podcast with you?
Mm.
No, I mean, I could be doing something else, but I enjoy this. I mean,
Right.
I look forward to this opportunity
Mm.
uh, because if I can positively affect just one person out there who might be watching or listening to this,
Right.
it's all worthwhile, right? It's
Right.
all worthwhile just by affecting one person. So, yeah. So I don't make any excuses. Again, I'm flawed, not perfect, but I don't make any excuses for who I am.
Beautiful. So yeah, with that in mind, what you said, you just affected somebody in a very, very deep way. Me. So you started with me already with this podcast. So that's a beautiful, let's say, outcome. I know you're not really looking for the big outcome, but if you want one person, if you wished for one person to be kind of connected deeply with your message, not just your message, but your presence, what you represent, you got me. You definitely have me as a fan.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you for your beautiful presence, for your conviction in yourself, all the work that you're doing to change that can change lives and everything else in between. Thank you. And you are more than enough, Emilio. You actually have done more than enough. You are more than enough. And I have to say, may as a prayer almost, as may your children, your wife, everyone around you see that in a deeper way. Wait a minute. He's a gift. He's a gift in every way. He's just a gift. Yeah, thank you for
You're so
being.
sweet. Thank you so very much. You're very sweet. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm truthful too. I try to be sweet and truthful, both. Thank you so much, Emilio, for your beautiful presence. I want to mention the website, dremiliojusto.com. It will be on the podcast notes. And would you like to add anything in the end of our conversation, Emilio? Like read a passage in your book or any final thoughts?
No, I think, I guess my final thought, first of all, first and foremost, to thank you for the opportunity. It's really been a tremendous privilege and a joy to get to know you and speak with
Oh,
you.
me too.
Really, it's just probably one of the best podcasts. Now, I've probably done 50 or 60 of them, and probably the
Oh,
best one that I've done. So thank you.
wow. Thank
Um,
you.
and I think just my parting words are that, life is an incredible blessing,
Mm,
that we need to really take advantage of everything that God has put in front of us,
yeah.
that we need to work hard. Again, I go back to the discipline and the resilience, and work hard, and that any dream, truly, I feel at the bottom of my
Mm,
heart that any
mm,
dream is achievable. It
mm.
may not be achievable tomorrow, and that's
Right.
where the delayed gratification comes
Mm,
in.
yeah.
But with little small steps, we can achieve whatever we want in our lives. And I
Mm,
sincerely believe that, no
mm,
matter what
mm,
your background is, what your upbringing is, rich or poor. Um, I just truly believe that.
mm,
And again, I'm such a big advocate of discipline because, as one of my favorite, he's deceased now, but one of my favorite speakers, Jim Rohn,
mm.
said many years ago that discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment,
Right.
right? So to get from goals to accomplishment,
Yeah.
you've got to be disciplined.
True.
And so I just think that that's key. And so being able to prioritize your
Mm,
time, your goals, your
mm,
tasks, and
mm.
still have fun. This doesn't mean, what I mean discipline doesn't mean you have to be in the military, getting up at 4 in the morning and doing all these incredible things, which we're so blessed in the United States to have such an incredible military men and women that we have. But
Right.
discipline just means leading a purpose driven, structured life
Mm,
that contributes not just to ourselves, but contributes to our society as a whole, to contributes to our family. And so take advantage of it. Don't waste a precious day, because we don't know what tomorrow may bring. We may not be here tomorrow. We just don't know. So take advantage of every moment,
right.
and be happy. Just like the song. Remember, don't worry, be happy.
Dun, 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 dun. I remember. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What's not to love about your message, about your conviction? I mean, it just comes across so natural too. I love how it's in your bones, it's just so in you that it's so natural. It flows. Thank you. Thank you for that, for being the truth itself, like expressing your own truth, is so beautiful to hear. It's like a song. And I'm glad you mentioned the song too, because it feels like a song. It feels like
Thank
a song with the way you speak. Thank you so much again,
Thank
Emilio,
you.
and we'll
Thank you.
talk soon. Bye for now, my
Thank
dear.